TexasSky.com, and I'm here today to show you how to do another wreath. We've done several different types of deco mesh wreaths, and they've all turned out beautiful. We've done an evergreen wreath, also very beautiful. But it seems like the trend, or what a lot of people are wanting these days, are the burlap wreaths. And I've done a couple of them. I don't enjoy doing them as much as I do the deco mesh, but they are very pretty and they're not difficult to do necessarily. But I thought I would just do one today for Easter where we could incorporate a twig wreath or grapevine wreath. They've been called several different things, but I've always called them a grapevine wreath, and I'm not sure if that's what it's made out of, but that's what I've always called them. And we're going to use some burlap to do this. I'm going to do something that's kind of an Easter theme. I'm going to go ahead and use a cross for the decor on, or the embellishment on this wreath. Crosses, though, today are being used in all decor, and so it's not just necessarily an Easter wreath. It's really a cool thing. For Christians, there's not a more important symbol than the symbol of the cross, and I think it's really cool that it can be used in everyday decorating. So this wreath can do double duty. It's a great wreath for Easter, but it's a wreath that can stay up all the time because so many people are incorporating the cross into their everyday decor. So we're going to do that. I'm not sure which one. You run into some pretty heavy ones. This one's beautiful. It's kind of Celtic looking. It's pretty heavy though. And on the grapevine wreath, which is a very light wreath, you know, you have to think about if it's going to weigh it down, you know, on one side or wherever you decide to put it. So that's a consideration. I'm going to use some sort of greenery to go on this. It is going to be a very springtime wreath. I've got some hydrangeas here, which I love, just some different kinds of filler. I've got some daisies I may or may not use because they're a little bit bright. The color's a little bit bright for what I'm doing here. I'm really thinking I'm going to go with this cross. It's a pretty light cross and it's got some real pretty colors in it. I think that'll be complemented with some other things as well. I'm going to use some floral wire. You can buy this in spools. I just happen to have a package of floral wire. I know I use the zip ties a lot to attach things, but for the grapevine wreath, it's easy to use the floral wire going in and out of the thick branches to hold your stuff there. I went ahead and made a bow with the Bodabra. We've talked about that before if you've watched any of my other videos. It's not a super fancy bow or anything like that, but it's a nice bow that we're going to use. I'm not sure exactly how. And then I'm using this, I think is 10 inches. Let's look and see how long this is. Oh, that's a lie. It's 14 inches. It's a 14-inch burlap. And this one, it's a pretty good one. A lot of times the burlap will smell a little bit. This one's not bad, and it's pretty pliable. And so I think we can get started, get right down to it. On the wreath, I kind of found a fatter area. These are going to be some different shapes. They're not all going to be true round. Some of them are kind of egg shaped. As you can see, this one is not really super symmetrical. It's just because it comes from nature, and there are no straight lines. There's not anything that's perfectly symmetrical in nature. So you just kind of have to eyeball it and think of where you're going to want your stuff to go. The burlap's kind of thick, so I'm going to put it on this thicker side, I think. And then you're going to need wire cutters. If you're going to be using the floral wire, you need some wire cutters also, we've gone over some of the things that when you're making wreaths you need to have. You need to have your glue gun, you need to have zip ties, floral wire, pliers, and wire cutters, and you'll be good to go. So I want to do a few poofs. We're not going to go poofs all the way around. It's going to be kind of like the deco mesh, only we don't have a little twist to twist it, and we're going to make those with the floral wire. So what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of fan fold this burlap into your hand and decide where you want to start. And you know, I think that this end is nice. There's not anything wrong with the natural looking end. We may need to trim off some of the little strings, because you're going to get strings with this too. But I think that end looks pretty nice. And so I'm going to start here And I'm just intertwining this through the branches, and I'm going to pull it to the other side to where I think it's a good length. I'm going to go ahead and cut it with my wire cutters. It cuts really easily. It's not a super thick wire. Then I'm going to give it a twist. And that's another reason too you might want to have pliers, just regular pliers. These have wire cutter integrated in it, but if you're wanting to not hurt your fingers, this is a great way to twist and curve what you're doing. Not difficult at all. And then we're going to come in and make our next poof. Now this is not as scientific as when I'm doing a deco mesh where I'm going to measure out every single poof to exactly how I want it. We're going to just kind of gather it up in that same kind of fan fold, you know, in and out, and bring that around. And I kind of like to pull it down a little bit to where it's going to cover up where that twist tie was, where you can't see the twist tie. And we'll fix all of that in a second too. And decide where the next one's going to be. I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to take my floor wire. And the same thing. Although I want to get it. And I'm going to kind of bend the end of it to where it'll curve around when I first stick it in. Because I want it to be in a strong area. And not just some of these little thin. There's a ton of little thin twigs. Well, it's easy, she said. Oh, I'm struggling here a little bit. Let's try it again. You can actually reach in there with your wire cutters and give it a pull. There it is. Okay, let's make that poof how we think we might like it. I think that's good. Okay, back to our wreath. We've got some burlap here, and it's looking pretty rough. You can see, I mean, it doesn't look like much of anything so far. It just looks a little, you know, like a wreath's got some burlap on it. Not anything awesome or amazing is going on here. And with these grapevine wreaths, you're going to have to trim off. These things go a little bit crazy. Be careful what you wear. It'll hang on everything. We're going to go ahead and trim this off. And I'm just going to gather it up and cut it across. Okay. You can see the table, it makes quite a mess. I mean, it looks like you've been working in the yard when you're done with this. But like I said too, it doesn't look like much, but we're going to make it look better than what it looks. That orangey flower, that's a hydrangea that's in that vase. up on the top, right there. Good job. My wonderful assistant, the mean man over there, not being mean at all. Ah, there we go. Okay. Now you can add some extra ribbon in here, a different color, if you want to just go with different color ribbons in each one of these places and cut them with a chevron edge. That's also fabulous and easy to do. And we're going to wire all of this in and show you the finished product. And yes, me man, he just sent me a note telling me he's actually quite nice. He is quite nice. If you will just give me a second, we'll take a little bit of break and I'll fasten this stuff together and you can see the finished product. Pretty simple. Okay, now as you can see, we've pretty much finished this. It was really not a difficult thing. For the hydrangeas, I've got hot glue on my finger. For the hydrangeas, I went ahead and zip tied those in. It was just easier. They're big and I wanted to be sure they were in there tight. And so I zip tied them in where we had the floral wire, where we did the poofs and bunched up. Every one of those places is where I zip tied in the hydrangea flower. And then I went in with some hot glue and I hot glued in some of the leaves. When it was first done, when I first looked at it, it was nice, but as I have said with wreaths, pretty much less is not more, more is more. You want to have just a little bit extra on there, those extra details. I had said that I liked the rough edge of this burlap. That was clearly not true. I did not like the rough edge after we got done. Not for this style of wreath. It was not that rustic. It's a little bit more formal. So I went ahead and I bent those edges down, curled them under, hot glued them, and hot glued them to the wreath. I went ahead on these last two little poofs. We didn't have flowers there, so I went ahead and put some of the hydrangea leaves that I just pulled off of the stems where I pulled the flowers off and put those there. I had these little filler tiny flowers. They're picks. I cut them apart and hot glued them. I slipped them in and hot glued them. And you really only can do what the wreath is going to dictate to you a lot of how you're going to put this stuff in here, where you're tucking it in and everything like that. So you may have to play with it a little bit, tuck it in, tuck it behind things, stick it behind things, hot glue some of the buds down, whatever you have to do is fine. I'll show you the back of the wreath. It's very clean. There's really not much to see. The back is just the back. Whenever I hang these, I generally just hang them through the grapevine. That's what I did here. I just stuck it. And then of course you'll have to make sure when you hang it, you know, that the angle is right where the cross is going to be straight up and down. You'll play with that. But anyway, super easy wreath. You can do this in an afternoon very easily. Don't bog down on getting everything perfect. It's kind of a rustic wreath. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Give it a try. And if you're the first time doing this, don't compare your work to other people's work. Do what you can do. You made it with your own hands, and whatever you do is something to be proud of because you're really making an effort to do something. And I promise you, the more often you do it, the better you're going to get at what you're doing. So I hope that you all try this, and you can use the cross wreath at any time, not just at Easter. But if you happen to be Christian and celebrate Easter, I wish you a very blessed Easter. And go to my website under texassky.com. There are lots of tutorials on different wreaths. There are tutorials on making pillows and makeovers. We renovated our kitchen. It was a complete demolition and redo that we did ourselves. It's all there. So go and check it out if you're involved in anything like that. And I'm so happy that you've joined us, and I've loved reading your comments. We've gotten so many comments, and most of them have been very encouraging, and even those that have small criticisms, I love hearing what you have to say. Don't hesitate to ask me questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. Give this a try. You can do it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.